Welcome back. In this video, I am going to share the lake house project I did last summer and the end of season tour of the 6 gardens that we put in. Stay tuned and we'll go through that right now. So here is the newest garden I put in. I'll have to look at what the date is. I'll put it on screen. And this is what I'm referring to as this hammock garden. So I was using up some of the materials that I had so far. We'll eventually put trees all the way along this fence, but let's look at what I've got done so far. So I've got a little Amir maple in there, and then I surrounded it by some Risky Business hosta, and then I have a couple of other flowers in there. They were kind of shocked, but they're coming along. At the other end of the garden, I took some of his extra bamboo and I made a little makeshift fence over here to keep the deer, to give them kind of a boundary. I mean, they can easily jump over it if they want to, but a little bit of a boundary. And then here I have some high bush cranberries. These will fill out to be nice sized bushes. And then this flower right there is this is an endless summer hydrangea that I took from my yard. And then I have some little, you can hardly tell, I have some little columbine in here all the way along. That's why the stakes are in the ground, so I know where they are because they were so small. I wanted them marked. And then I threw some columbine in this backdrop here, and some larger subid substance hostas, and then way in the back there, that is a Blue Point Juniper. It's just a baby that I put in there, and we'll watch how this whole thing grows. I have a lot of deer pressure here, so we did treat for deer. Oh, I know hosta is a delicacy, but for right now I had a lot of extra stuff from my garden, and I just brought him up some different things. So it's basically, I think everything in here is free. It's free to him. It's stuff I'm sharing from my garden, so it's just kind of nice. This little garden is what I'm calling his memorial garden. He is a disabled veteran and he's very patriotic, so he bought this little statue with the flag and the cross, and I decided to build a little memorial garden, kind of a red, white, and blue theme, septic cover, and I'm using some red petunias, which next year I'll put bigger pots in a better soil mix so they do better, and maybe I can find a better variety that will cascade over. And then the lavender is, I think it's an annual for this zone. I mean, we're in zone 4 up in northern Wisconsin. And then here is some Dusty Miller, and you can see it just all kind of goes really nice. We're at the end of season for the petunias and containers. They're looking pretty ratty. Next year I'll do a better job. But yeah, this is his little memorial garden. This is his little courtyard area where we had some vegetables. They're kind of at the end of their life. I did plant some peas later on. The containers are still have some color, but they're pretty sad. I gotta find a better way of treating them. We'll have to put a better fertilizer on them during the year. I just did a granular, and I think it needs a foliar feed probably on top of that to keep them looking healthy all year. But they do look really nice with these decorative urns with the hanging baskets in them. Do look pretty nice flagging and framing this courtyard area. The other things that we grew in containers, and for him this is his first time growing vegetables in containers, so he did really well. These peas I just planted at the beginning of August, and so they're just starting to perform. This is our second round of peas for the year. The lettuce was delicious, and it went to seed. I think I'm going to collect these seeds, actually, and try to do some work with them. I'm seeing I got a little bit of an aphid issue up here. There's aphids on that, but this is its seed form at this point. And I think I would like to collect the seeds, but maybe if there's aphids on there, maybe not so much. But the peas are starting to come along. I think I seen a little one like right here this morning. So maybe in another few days, they'll be ready for harvest again. And I love eating peas in the pods. I have some more peas in containers here. And then we have some basil, which is past its prime. It's already went to seed, so it's not going to be any good. I have more at home, and I'll take it out and I will make some pesto. I have a pepper plant that's barely hanging on. We're starting to get cooler temperatures now. The tomato is looking sad. He needs to come out and water. And we have some cherry tomatoes there too. So they might need to be relocated to a much more bright location next year. It did really well, but we're at the point now because he's next to a woods that he starts getting it. His daylight is really hindered because of the location. So along the side of his walkway here, this is an area where he wants to put a pond in. This is the pond. It's got a crack in it, and we have to determine whether we want to try to seal it up. It'll be above ground either way, but we might take some of that Gorilla Tape and see if we can get it to work and hold it. But this is his first year growing roses, and he's done a really nice job. He's been deadheading right along until recently, but you can see we are almost in October and we got nice roses blooming in Wisconsin, which is unheard of. Of course, the newer varieties make that possible. And here is a coleus that we haven't deadheaded, but that's one coleus plant, one itty bitty coleus plant, and that's what Miracle-Gro potting soil does. It's huge. Well, no, it's got to be 3 feet in diameter. Looks like a shrub, but it's really a nice plant. We do have a few weeds that are rogue that need to be taken care of, but all in all, it's pretty good for a first-time garden. As we come along the path here, we had some challenges, and this is where we have the hose reel, and we took some stones from around his property and used it kind of as a barrier along the walkway, and I think it worked really well. I think it looks really good. And then he did buy some plants. This is a Dappled Willow, which we will keep contained. I will shear it back in the spring to make it smaller and always keep it in a smaller shrub format. We'll bonsai it, basically, is what we'll end up doing. And then I've got, here we have some astilbe and some lupine that I grew from seed. And I brought these for him as well. When we were driving around to go to some appointments, he saw some tall pink garden phlox, and he liked that, so I brought some garden phlox. They're done blooming now, of course, and some black-eyed Susans to bring some other pops of color into this landscape. One of the challenges we had is we have this downspout here, and his granddaughter had visited, and I had her put some rocks together to create a little rain garden to help contain the water so it didn't wash the mulch out, and it did okay, but we did have some spells of 3 inches of rain in one shot, and of course we did have some overflow at that point. You can see where the mulch is washed, but all in all, I think it looks pretty good. And again, we were using the materials we kind of had laying around the cabin or the house. I think it just came together really well. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? This is a newer clematis. I did buy this at a nursery, and it is absolutely gorgeous. This is Mrs. N. Thomas. This is the second flush of blooms. This is a type 2 clematis. So it blooms on new and old wood. It kind of grows from the ground every year, but we prune it. I'll prune it in the spring down, or maybe after this flush of blooms when we get the hard frost. I'll cut it off when these blooms are done and try to do some propagations. But it is just, the colors on this is just amazing, and I could just imagine, I think this grows to 8 to 10 feet tall, so if you can imagine the side of his house here, where it's going to have these gorgeous blooms. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. I couldn't believe it. sometimes when you look in the magazines or on the package, you see these colors and you think, yeah, right. And then you get them and the colors don't seem to match. Of course, that can be due to the light or the soil type and stuff like that. But the color is exactly is brilliant, and the color is the color is absolutely magnificent. So yeah, you can see how if it gets 8 feet tall, it'll go all the way up the side by the kind of the downspout and kind of cover that up, which is good. And then in the end, I could put some more mulch over top of this sprout coming out, downspout coming out, and that will cover that, and you won't even know it's there. It will hide it really well. So the other things that we did, when his granddaughter was here, I had her plant a few annuals in the front of these arborvitaes because I thought I wanted to give him a nice pop of color. He likes lots of color, and I really like how it turned out. It was just some random annuals I had left over from another project, and we just kind of planted them, and they look pretty good. And then he wanted with the round format arborvitae, kind of put 3 balls in a row. And then I have a kind of a blank area behind here that I'll plant something. I haven't decided what yet. He is going to have his windows replaced, so I was trying to hold off on doing too much around the window areas, knowing they're going to have to come in and do some work. And these are emerald green arborvitaes. I got one on each side of his door here. And this little beautiful shrub with the contrast and evergreen. This is a globe blue spruce, and it's really beautiful. So these are planted pretty close together, these things, and they will end up touching, and I'll probably shear them to make some separation in the future, but it may take 5 years before we get to that point. And the arborvitae will fill that whole area too and be completely flanking each side of the door. You can see how that looks here when we pan across. And they'll go all the way up to each side of the door, and it will really flank the door and anchor it really nice. He has a couple other annual containers here, which are kind of at the end of their usefulness. A little petunia and another draping plant. Looks like we got a dandelion weed in there as well. And then this was a Spanish lavender, which just bloomed profusely. It looks like it's starting to come again. I did come and deadhead it about a couple weeks ago. Maybe we will get a few more blooms before frost, although it looks to me like we might have frost in about 3 days. So it'll be good to see how that does. But that is definitely not hardy to this zone. So again, we have a emerald arborvitae on this side, and then we have another globe blue spruce, which is from Bailey Nursery, close to this area in south of Minneapolis. And then again, I have some annuals in there. And again, I repeated the pattern on this side to give it symmetry, again with the globe arborvitaes. And at the end, another dappled willow. So I have a dappled willow on this side as well. And the reason we put the dappled willow on each side is because I have the downspouts there, so we have water coming, so that helps to absorb any of that water as it comes out to try to get some of it coming off. But you can see just looking across the landscape that it really looks nice. I'll see if I can find my before pictures and put them in here too, so you can really see. I'll see if I can find my before pictures as well and see if I can show just how much this has changed. It's changed quite a bit. It looks good. This area here was another one of my trouble spots. So I have 2 clean outs for the septic system. This used to be a commercial building, and so they had a grease trap and a regular septic. And so those little clean outs are down there, you can see them. And so I needed to do something with it. I can't cover them, they need to stay open. As far as I can't put soil over them. A little mulch is not a problem. And then I wanted to try to keep the dogs from going in there as well, so I put the rabbit fence up actually for the dogs and not the rabbits. Put a couple annuals in here, and then I put a rose bush in, which needs to be deadheaded, but it looks pretty good for the most part. So this little garden is another memorial garden. This is for a daughter that he lost and his wife. And his wife really loved purple, so I put a lot of purple in here. I've got a purple smoke bush in here. I've got a lot of bluish purple delphiniums, which are deer and bunny resistant. I have some native daisies, common daisies, which I transplanted from my house. Brought those here. And these are old-fashioned purple lilacs, which are a little wily. And I think I might dig them out and replant them and put something different in here. Maybe a Miss Kim, something that's a little bit more contained. I don't like old-fashioned lilacs, tend to get pretty weedy. So I'll probably take these out next year. I didn't plant these, they were here. And you can see where we put the mulch down to try to contain it. But next year I'll have tons of purple and blue delphiniums blooming. I use the Fantasia variety, which is a medium height, about a 3 foot, versus a Pacific Giant. And we're at end of season for the lilacs, so they're looking a little rough. Along the front of the property, I actually planted some more high bush cranberries. The deer nibbled on them a little bit at the end, but we'll see how these go. They may be fine. They were pretty free for him, so it didn't really matter. I don't know, I may change it out to something else. Maybe I'll put all purple smoke bushes, which are deer resistant, in there, and some Russian sage, as well as some more cosmos and one long line so he doesn't have to mow around them. I haven't quite decided. And then all the way along the fence, I am going to put more of the blue point junipers going there, and on that side of the property line, I'm actually going to put a line of white pine in. That's what he would like me to do, so that's next year's projects. And then along the driveway, this is a huge change. We really did a lot of work here, and I really like the color combinations I chose for this. So I do have deer pressure here, and you can see where they have chewed on some of my Sandcherry a little bit. And that's okay, we're almost at winter time. And I spray it with a deer repellent, but I haven't done it for a little bit. So I'll have to come out and hit that again next year. And then we've got some yellow Coreopsis down in here. The backdrop of evergreens is blue point juniper. They're a little bit bigger variety. This is a little taller version. I wanted to try to save him more money along the fence, so I put smaller ones in there. But these will get pretty good sized, and they'll be touched and enclosed. But it's really a nice entrance point. We have the gold Mop Cypress, the false cypress at gold Mop, and now that looks really good. And then you have the purple Russian sage, and then the blue-green blue point juniper behind it. And then with the red mulch, it just looks good. And then I've got I also have the Sunjoy Barberry in here too. And I really like that purpley color. So again, the color combinations, I think these color combinations work really well. It brings a pop of color. It's very interesting to the eye. It looks pretty good, with the exception of the weeds a couple weeds that need to be pulled in there, but just it really looks nice. I like it a lot. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up so YouTube knows to share this content with others. Also consider subscribing so you don't miss any of our other great videos. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day.